elections, it's complicated. I think a lot happened. We're looking for a bright year this year. In our town, Belville, I think we have a huge amount of opportunities that are coming in, but I'm looking forward to that. If commissioners have an opportunity to look at the agenda, under item 3, if there's no changes or comments, could I have somebody give me a motion to accept the agenda? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Move to item 4, consent agenda. All items on consent agenda considered to be routine and be enacted by one motion without discussion. If a member of the governing body requests discussion of an item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Have the commission had an opportunity to look over the consent agenda? If there's no issues, could I have a motion that we accept consent agenda in its entirety? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 5, presentation and appointments. The first on the list is the Flood Coalition presentation. Mr. Tony McGuinn is here. Tony, if you come up, he's an old friend of ours. We're glad that we got him here, sir. The floor will be yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, and I appreciate your help. So I've got a decent amount of slides, but I'm going to get them pretty quickly for you, but feel free to stop me and ask any questions. I'm going to talk a little bit about the American Flood Coalition, and I'm going to talk about a number of successes we've had. When I say we, I literally mean we, in North Carolina as it relates to flood resilience policy. And as I said, we, because Belville, back when I worked for the city of Wilmington as their legislative affairs director, Belville very much was a part of the team that helped advocate at the state and federal level following Hurricane Florence. And so I'm going to talk with you a little bit about some of how that work has paid dividends and what it means to your community. But first, as the mayor mentioned, my name is Tony McEwen. I'm the Carolinas director for the American Flood Coalition. Most recently, I was the state and federal lobbyist for the city of Wilmington. And so the American Flood Coalition is a 501c3. It's a well-resourced national nonprofit. Ultimately, what I would ask of Belville for y'all to consider becoming a member of the American Flood Coalition. But let me also say along with that, we're not asking you for a single thing. We're not asking you for any resources. We don't have any vested interest financially in any projects that y'all may do. Like I said, we are attempting to be federal advocates and state advocates for this state, or for communities that have concerns around flood issues here in North Carolina. And so let me kind of keep it moving a little bit here. So first off, very simply, our mission, as you can read here, protecting communities that are vulnerable to flooding and sea level rise. It's a national issue that must be met with national solutions. It's vitally important to our community's well-being, economic strength, and security. So our 4 pillars, and again, I'm just kind of brief through this 4 pillars for coastal and inland solutions: economy, communities, rebuilding, and military. So our members, we have federal champions, and I'll share with you some of who those are. We're very much a bipartisan organization. But federal champions, just to comply with congressional ethics rules, that's how members of the House and U.S. Senate can join our organizations. Cities, towns, and counties, we have about 70 member communities in North Carolina as well. And really, what's behind that is our interest is building a deep and wide enough of a voice to where our issues, our concerns as it relates to flooding cannot be denied because we have such a strong advocacy team set up. But elected officials, businesses, we have chambers of commerce that are members, military groups, civic, and academic groups. So here's our team, our staff-wise. I work solo down here. I cover North and South Carolina. I'm based out of Wilmington, obviously, but the vast majority of our folks are based out of D.C., and these are some of the brightest minds in the nation as it relates to flood resilience policy. I am not a wonky individual by any means. I do try to get the politics right on behalf of these issues and relationships right on behalf of these issues, but most of the folks that you see pictured here are people who've got PhDs in oceanography, people who went to Ivy League schools, just really sharp but yet practical folks that work on these issues day in and day out. So here's just a spotlight of some of our members. We have Council of Governments, City of Wilmington's a member, New Bern. We've got mayors from as far west as Canton, North Carolina. Representative Charlie Miller, you all very familiar with, great guy, a member of our organization. Speaker Tim Moore is a member of our organization. But to give you a little bit wider picture of here in North Carolina, and this is an outdated slide that I need to get updated. This is an example of some of the organizations and communities that are members of ours. If you see, we have a number of notable state legislators as well. So federal champions, as I mentioned, and this as well is outdated. Just late last week, Senator Tom Phillips joined our organization as a federal champion. We have Republicans and Democrats. One thing that makes our organization unique is that we have a comfort level and vice versa with folks that are represent the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. So we're very most active in North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, and Texas. Our interest is building a state model in each of those states that is as ideal as possible, and we work to export that nationwide. And then, but in the meantime, to make sure that we work on behalf of those states, not only within the states, but in Washington. So kind of what we offer, like I said, we don't ask for anything from you other than to lend your voice to this conversation alongside of us. But as I said, we are a well-resourced organization. We are in the habit of developing best-in-class educational guides, tools for effective communication. We can help elected officials write op-eds, what have you, to help you communicate with your constituency on these issues. A network of leaders that have concerns around flooding. We help fund local resilience projects, and then a platform, obviously, for education and advocacy. So just as an example, shortly after I joined AFC, I've been on staff for about 7 months. We flew about 40 mayors and county commissioners up from North Carolina completely on our dime to give them an immersive experience in Washington on flood resilience policy. And it's a very intricate issue, obviously. And then to set up meetings and appointments for them on Capitol Hill. You may recognize some of these folks on the top left, the mayor of Nags Head and the mayor of Canton. We've got the mayor of Belville up there, commissioner from Duke County, Pender County Commission, Mayor Bill Sappho, and we'd like to extend those opportunities to y'all as well. Here's an op-ed that we co-wrote with Mayor Bill Sappho and Jackie Newton, who's the chair there in Pender County. So a few examples of the tools that we provide, and your staff may be particularly interested in this. When I worked for Congressman McIntyre, oftentimes I was in a position. Mayor Mike Allen was regularly working with me on this to help find funding, federal funding for local communities. Well, that's a very challenging thing to navigate, even for someone who is dealing with it full time. You know, you have to have some type of law degree or whatever to weed through all that stuff. But what we have done, we partnered with the Kresge Foundation to develop a tool called the Flood Funding Finder, and it's free of charge whether you are members of ours or not. And what it does is it really puts navigating the federal funding stream and bureaucracy, puts it in layman's terms. So just very basic search tool, search engine that you can put, terms that you can put in that spits out all the different resources that are available, when the deadlines are, tips for how to, make yourself most attractive to receive those funds. So that's an example of it. Dual disaster handbook we developed as communities are dealing with COVID, but also natural disasters. Adaptation for All Guide is the 26 kind of most highly recommended flood resilience approaches that you can take and where resources are to find those. And so those are all on our website. So as I mentioned, we've all been a part of this conversation since Florence. One thing that and y'all were a part of this, Athena was excellent, being a great point person for y'all at the staff level. We developed the Eastern North Carolina Recovery and Resilience Alliance to try and be a squeaky wheel on behalf of this region after Florence. Ultimately, that grew to over 60 mayors and county commission chairs. Mary Allen, I know that you participated in some meetings on that. Ultimately, when I was single-handedly staffing that, when I transitioned from the city of Wilmington to where I am now, AFC kind of absorbed that and actually provides significant resources behind it now, so that organization remains in place and the successes continue to develop. So just real quickly, so again, what we've accomplished thus far. As part of this Eastern North Carolina Resilience Alliance, we had decided on 6 priorities after doing a virtual listening tour back in 2020 and 2021. We landed on 6 priorities. Ultimately, 5 of those 6 priorities were introduced as House Bill 500 by House Majority Leader John Bell of North Carolina. That, in turn, was passed in the state budget. So, in direct response to our ask, which y'all are part of, there were $357 million in funding provided in the 2021 budget that's actively flowing right now. And that puts us in rarefied air, frankly, North Carolina, Louisiana, and Florida. Those are the top states that have devoted money to this issue, and again, y'all are a part of that. So, you see our items here: fund actionable flood resilience blueprint, ensure resilient critical transportation infrastructure. Y'all know as well as I do on the key issues during and after Hurricane Florence, for the fact that we were basically an island here in this part of the state. So that's something that brought folks together and got a lot of energy behind these issues. Fund stream management, riverine, cleaning out dredging projects. Make sure that at the local level there's resiliency, capacity, technical assistance at hand, and then fund flood mitigation innovative pilot projects at the local level. So just something we're going to work on this year in Raleigh. So as a part of the 2021 budget, there was a $15 million grant program started that for the first time took direct aim at transportation concerns as it relates to flooding. So $15 million is a big deal for me, and I know it's a big deal for y'all, but in a statewide scenario, that's not a ton of money. So the money was not reoccurring. We are going to introduce legislation that tries to attempt to appropriate $50 million and get that grant program going again and refines it just a little bit. I'm pleased to say, and this is the list of folks that received funding in the first and at this point only round of that. And unfortunately, Belville is not one of those, but this was something that was set up really kind of late in the game, a brand new thing. So there really wasn't a lot of really good communication mentally from the state level on this. But I believe, if I've got my number right, 6 of the 15 grants, of the 19 grants, were from Pender, Brunswick County, and New Hampshire County. So there was significant return on the investment of advocacy that our region played to get this set up in the first place. And then, we like to paint the picture of exactly what those dollars mean for our community. Y'all may have seen back in September of last year, we funded a bus tour that involved media, local elected officials, state agencies, leadership, and legislators. We traveled throughout Pender, Brunswick, and New Hampshire County, highlighting some of the projects that are going to be funded as a part of that $357 million, and make sure that state agency leadership were able to interface with local elected officials directly to hear from them of ongoing needs. And this is just some kind of fun pictures from our stops. That's an NPR reporter there. This is a bunch of mayors and county commissioners, state officials that jumped out on the side of the road there around Belville with the stream debris project. And there's some more pictures, and that's all I got. Hopefully I didn't go too far. I zipped through that a little bit. Any questions y'all have for me? And let me also say, we're not funded by any corporate interests at all. We are funded by Family Foundation, groups like Kresge Foundation as well, so there's no concern around that. At least I don't have any. But I know that's often a question we have. But I'm happy to answer any questions or just get out of your face.
Any comment?
I just had a question about the grants that are coming out for the next round, I guess. Do you know when the timetable might be for that? How would you actually apply for some of those?
So the money is not reoccurring. And so that's why we're looking to introduce legislation going forward. And I know, our mutual friend, Lexi Miller, has been supportive of that. And so in the coming couple of weeks, we're going to get that introduced in Raleigh. And hopefully that would get passed ultimately as a part of the budget. So you'd see that come online, in the fall of this year. And we're going to look to work with the state to make sure they communicate it across the state that we did it first.
Yeah, because like you said, I know that there was a lot of things that weren't addressed in our area, especially down in 133 where it was cut off like an island. So we get to that. And that's a thing that we have been talking about for years, about trying to get DOT to do something about that and flood mitigation and probably to a resolution for that.
So I know when we did our bus tour, we had DOT officials with us, and they had referenced a future project, and it wasn't funded as a part of this grant. It was something that they had funding for that they're doing on 133. I don't know if, I know 133 is, it's a decent sized road. So I don't know if it's the part of 133 you're talking about or a little further south. But I'm happy to communicate with some of your excellent staff, Adrian, Athena, whomever, and let them know. I'll get them to interface with DOT and we'll see exactly what to do.
Okay.
So that there may be something there that you're just not quite aware of yet.
We got, I'm glad this is a good thing. I hope that really people pay attention to this because, I think as time goes on, the amount of hurricanes we have in the area, the amount of work that's going on there, the population moving, the water level, the flooding, and it's just, we're gonna have a lot more eyes on it.
Yeah.
And it's a tremendous amount. There's a lot of work that can be done if we get ahead of it and stop some of the major issues from happening to us. We can mitigate a lot of these issues with organizations like this. They stay on top of it. Because, you know, it's a shame most time out there in a hurricane or tornado, we're reactive, not proactive.
Yeah.
And if you build a correctly in a structure, it can absorb a lot of that bad energy that happens. And we can mitigate a lot of the flooding if we hit it the right way.
Mayor, I'm sure we're of like mind on this, is that there's investments that, you know, these are not cheap things, but they're needed, and we need to do it on the front end and not be reactive about it, because ultimately that's gonna save taxpayer dollars to make those smart investments.
It's also gonna save lives.
One point, to save lives, like you said, sir. Yeah.
Building material. Tony, we appreciate you taking the time. It's great seeing you here. You've been a great advocate not only for this project, for a lot of things around the world, and you handle it around the tender area. Hey, thanks for all the hard work you've done, and I look forward to you and I talking some more. We do have a resolution here, resolution 23-01. Resolution by the Belville Board of Commissioners providing for the town of Belville to become a member of the American Flood Coalition. Whereas proactive investing to prevent flooding is a wiser use of resources than spending on flooding recovery, exemplified by FEMA research showing that $1 spent on disaster prevention saves up to $7 in recovery costs. Whereas the National Coalition support is necessary for communities to fully address the challenges of flooding and sea level rise. And the American Flood Coalition provides a platform advocating for national solution to flooding and sea level rise that invest in and protect our coastal communities. And whereas the American Flood Coalition is a no-cost forum for best practices, and source support in developing local and state level responses to flooding and sea level rise that will enhance the town of Belville's resilience effort. And whereas joining the American Flood Coalition will aid the town of Belville's effort to protect against flooding without requiring any financial support or dues from the Belville commissions. And whereas the Belville Board of Commissioners finds that joining the American Flood Coalition will promote the welfare of the town of Belville residents and ensure the prosperity of the Belville economy by accelerating solutions to sea level rise and flooding. And now therefore it be resolved by the Belville Board of Commissioners, the town of Belville recognizes the need to advance national solutions to sea level rise and flooding, and will work as a member of the American Flood Coalition to safeguard the welfare of the town of Belville residents, resolved this 23rd day of January 2023. I have a motion that we pass resolution 23-01, or is there any comments to go along with that also?
Comments, so moved to pass resolution. I know it's a typo.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, resolution passes. And Tony, thank you again. We look forward to having further conversations, and I'll be getting in touch with you before the week's out.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Commissioners. It's been a great aid. Yeah. Okay, the next big item coming up. Come on up, Jeff. Grundy County Tax Administrator. Jeff, you'll say your last name so I won't get it wrong.
Sure, that's no problem. I'm Jeff Neubauer, I'm a tax administrator for Brunswick County.
The floor is yours, sir, and we thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm driving this or not.
Sorry.
So I appreciate again you having me come to talk about the reval, 2023 revaluation. We've had some slides we'll kind of go through. They won't take a lot of time. But if you have any questions, you can ask at do we do a revaluation? It's required by statute. So I apologize, I didn't bring my glasses, I can't quite read it there, so I have to read down here. The statute requires the counties to do a revaluation every 8 years. Brunswick County, like many counties, has opted to do a revaluation, which is section 3. It's an optional advancement. So we do it every 4 years. The vast majority of North Carolina counties have opted to do a shortened schedule. That's really to keep the market in balance. However, as we'll see as we go through the slides, there's also the statute that requires a mandatory advancement. So if your county's greater than 75,000 parcels or population, that if you reach a certain sales ratio above or beyond, below 0.85 or above 1.15, you're required by law to do a revaluation. In this particular case, Brunswick County would have been required to do a revaluation if we were on 8%. So right now, we are kind of our progress to date. We have actually finished valuing all the properties. We've got 155,289 properties in Brunswick County. We have completed those. We group them in neighborhoods, so we have 788 total neighborhoods, and those are all have been completed. And we hope to get notices out soon. So I kind of put this slide in here because it talks about the neighborhood delineation. And really what that's saying is we group like and similar properties together. But what we call a tax office neighborhood may not be a neighborhood that your citizens call. I live in neighborhood X, but that may not be what the county tax office calls it. So when we're looking at our records and somebody will call us up and say, well, I'm not in that neighborhood, it's a tax neighborhood. It's not necessarily what you consider your neighborhood. New buildings for Brunswick County, we can see each year as it continues to grow. 2019, we had 2,699 residential, 52 commercial. All the way down to 2022, we've had 3,695 new residential and 63 commercial. Belville doesn't have a lot of growth as far as new construction for last year. No residential and only 2 commercial. This kind of talks about that sales ratio, and that's the difference between what the tax value is and what the properties are selling. This slide may be a little bit confusing, but our last revaluation was in 2019. For that year, we had 6,284 sales. That's coming up to the revaluation. And so it was in January when we get revaluations are effective January 1. So the beginning of the year, we were at 99.39%. So what things were selling for was in line with what we had valued. At the end of the year, you can see that things were still continuing to go up. We were at 95.83. So you come down year after year, and you can see in 2022, we're at 56.92. And that's a big difference. And for Belville, I put you guys in there for 2022, you had 38 sales. What that too is that's qualified sales. So that's me selling my house to you, not me selling my house to my brother. That's not a real home for that sale, or inheriting a piece of property or something. So you can see where your ratio is at 61. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying. We'd have been forced with that sales ratio in 2021 to mandatorily do an advancement as well. So this is kind of a sales to market transactions. So in 2019 was the last revaluation. At that time, the average sale price was $283,000. Currently, the average sales price is about $420,000. The average market, this is before the revaluation right now, is $276,000. So you can see, based on the 2019 revaluation, the $276,000 and the $283,000 are in line. So when we finish the revaluation, our average market should be close to that average sale. This is kind of hard to read, but this is the deed transactions. One thing we monitor is how many deeds are coming through. You see, there's been a lot of talk, of course, with interest rates, and the current market is that everything was potentially going to drop. We have not seen that. We have seen that the number of transactions, deed transactions, are starting to slow down. One thing is the time of year, as you see on the chart, that they slow down this time of year. However, it has slowed down some. I'm sure that's related back to the interest rates. But for last year, it averaged, I just can't read from here, I think it's around 18,000. And this year, 16,000 for this past year. So 21 to 22. So it's still in line. It's not too far off year over year. This is our change in values. So you can see by municipality and county. Brunswick County, for a reval, we're looking at about a 59% increase. And for Belville, it's about 49.16. These numbers were as of last week. We're still going back through, doing some fine tuning. So that will change. I do have a note in there. Please don't use that number for budgeting purposes. The tax office will start getting some numbers to you that will include, of course, the real property, personal property value, and all those things. So don't just take it times 49%. That number won't be right. This is just some information we got online by Rocket Homes. It says how much is the average house in Brunswick County, 400,000. As you saw, we had around 420 of our tax records, so it's very similar. It shows that Brunswick County and some of our surrounding counties, so we're up about 20%, and that's similar to our surrounding counties. So this is just a 5-bedroom count. If you look 3 bedrooms, the most common, again, it's right at about 20%. This is information for if somebody calls your office or you guys want to take a look. If you go to our webpage, we have information regarding the revaluation. So if you go to the tax page on the left-hand side, there's at the very top, it says 2023 revaluation. We have a good bit of information to talk about the revaluation, different frequently asked questions, what to expect, when to expect it. But if you scroll down some, there's another highlighted area down there. It talks about our property record card. So you can pull up your property. So you type in, you look up your property, or your neighbor's property, or friend's property, whatever you want to look up. And you give you all the detail that we have about that particular property. Well, not all the detail, but a good bit of the detail we have about that property. And if you look on the far side, under the aerial map, it says find comparable sales. So if you want to look at your information, if it looks right, if it doesn't look right, there's a spot where you can email the county and let us know what you think the discrepancy is. But if it all looks right, you can click that find comparables. And it's going to take you to this page, and it'll show you the little red spot is your particular property, and then around it will be properties that have sold, and you can control it. At the top of that, there's different categories you can pick. You can pick the square footage, you can pick the age, pick the neighborhood type. There's a whole list of things that you could select. These are the sales that we're using to value the property. So it's a good resource to if any of your citizens are looking for information, you can point here. Then it'll list the property that you're looking at, and then on the side as well, it'll also list the characteristics of the property that had sold. So you can compare. Well, my house is 2,500 square feet, but the one that sold was 19. So you know there has to be some adjustments for that. This is kind of a schedule of where we're at. So the schedule of values was adopted in October. We have published in the newspaper, and our plan is to mail out notices within the next 2 weeks to the citizens. The revaluation is effective January 1. We'll start having informal hearings shortly after everybody receives their notice. I'm sure they'll start calling us. And we'll start explaining the process and what it is and how we came to the value. And we'll have the Board of Equalization and Review, which will start in April. They'll adjourn most likely in April. We haven't set those dates yet. We'll have to get with the board at a later time, but that will be advertised in the newspaper and it will be on our website. The tax bills will be generated in July and mailed out. September 1st, they'll be due, and then delinquent on January 5th, 2024. The appeals process for those that do decide to appeal. Again, the notice will be mailed until typically around the 1st of April to informal appeal, and then they'll have until the board adjourns for their final appeal time. After the board adjourns, We may still have to hear appeals, but they will not be able to file any new appeals. If they're not satisfied with the Board of Equalization and Review, they have the option to go to Raleigh for the Property Tax Commission, and then Board of Appeals if they're not happy. That is all I have. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer them.
Yeah, of course, all the towns, you know, they have the same issue Belville got once the final adjustments come out. And see those final numbers, that's the reason I've been talking with your commissioner today. But, you know, looking at everything, you know, part of reevaluation is a good thing, and some of it's tough. Because you got a lot of citizens not gonna look at it the same way.
We've already had, we've had different meetings and talked to different folks, and, you know, I think, obviously, one of the most challenging things is everybody's worried about what it will do for the tax bill, which is a whole separate issue. But most people, when we haven't given out any final values because we haven't sent out notices, but we've talked to citizens that most everybody knows what their property is pretty much worth. And everybody we talked to, when we've said, well, we're about at this number, we have not run into one person that has said, that is way, way out of line. They may say, well, what's that gonna do to my tax bill? We say it's too early to determine that. Because we'll have to get numbers to the county finance office, and of course, numbers to you guys, so you can start working on what rate you'll come up with for budget purposes. But that's too early to determine at this point in time. And one thing is, a lot of people that we talk to is they say, well, I'm not gonna be able to afford it. Well, just because your value goes up does not mean that you will pay more taxes. Maybe you could end up paying less. Your value could go up, but you're not going up as high as the rest of the county or municipality, and they set a new rate, and the amount of taxes you will pay will go down. And don't forget, if the county lowers its rate, that lowers it, or the municipality lowers it, whatever you decide to do, that affects personal property, so motor vehicles and the boats, mobile homes, that sort of thing as well. So there's more to it than just what your house.
Yeah, that's the bottom line, we'll all be looking for. And, like I say, keeping the citizens informed is the biggest thing.
That's good.
And if we keep that out there, I don't see nothing, from what I'm hearing right now, I don't see any major issues at all anyway.
We haven't, you know, the gentleman that spoke before me, talking about the Hurricane Florence, and it was kind of a flashback, because that's when we did our last reevaluation, and we've been so busy, we haven't thought about the last one, but, you know, that was a lot of challenge with all the properties that were damaged and all. And so there was a lot more complex with those type of properties last time. This time, it's just trying to keep up with the market. We've been working on this revaluation for 2 years. You know, in the last year, a lot of properties went up almost $100,000 in value. So just trying to keep up with that change in the market has been, we had finished neighborhoods, and then 3-4 months later, instead of being at 99% or 100%, we were back down to 92-93% because that sale kept up.
Yeah, I'm glad we got, talking with Steve and the commissioners, and we got people like you, and got the best team on board. They can make this an easy transition, understand that, because y'all do an outstanding job, and we appreciate that, but we appreciate it. Y'all, like you said, they work especially hard, and anybody that deals with taxes, period, have got a monumental task.
That it is.
But thank you so much, Jeff. Thank you and your team and what the county does, and express that on the change, we will too, but especially for y'all.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any comment? I know everybody will be looking for the final on all this, but, from everything I've seen, and if you're talking, everything that comes out, I think everybody will be happy with what they're gonna see on our whole reevaluation system. And, like I say, we just have to make sure we get the information out in a timely manner too. That way people don't jump to conclusions and start making assessments that are not true of what's really gonna happen. good part.
If
Yes,
you,
yeah.
if you would like, we can send you a link to our page where we have a lot of information. If you want to add that to your website,
We appreciate that.
you can do
Yeah,
that as
really
well.
would.
We also have our phone number. We have staff answering the phone all day, every day, so they'll always talk to somebody.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Any other comments from commissioners? Okay, we'll move on, next, I guess, downtown manager, any issues on that or comments? Okay, all right, move on to five, C, Greg Adams of Thompson Price. And Scott and Adams and Company will present the audit for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2022. We have on one.
Greg, can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can go forward.
All right. Mayor, Commissioner, Greg Adams here with Thompson Price Scott Adams and Limited. We performed the June 30th, 2022 audit for the town of Belville. I think everyone has a presentation, so I'll start on page 2 of the presentation. This is the town's required communications. These are required auditors to the board each and every year. So they sound familiar because they are the same thing the last several years. But each and every year we have to go required items. Our responsibilities under generally accepted auditing standards, government auditing standards, OMB uniform guides, and the State Single Audit Implementation Act require that the auditors design the audit to provide reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free of material errors and in compliance with government regulations. That was accomplished. There were no material errors noted during the audit. We're also required to perform all claim procedures and have complete access to not only the town's information, but also complete access to town employees. That was completed and our work was not limited in any way. We're required to communicate any significant deficiencies in internal control that we would discover during the course of the audit. For this year, June 30th, 2022, there were no significant deficiencies. Page 2 of the required communication were adoption or changes in accounting policies. We have to communicate to the board any initial adoption or change in accounting principle which had or is expected to have a significant effect on the financial statement. This year, we adopted GASB 87 in relation to leases, which did not have a significant effect on the town of Belville's financial statement, but it could have when we did adopt that new GASB 87. So from this point forward, any kind of leases that we sign will have to be shown in a certain way that would affect your financial statement. Management's judgment and accounting estimates were to assess the methodologies used and basis of evidence for matters requiring judgments and estimates. The two main estimates are allowance for doubtful accounts on receivables, so amounts that we deem uncollectible on your receivables, and depreciation expense, because you have to estimate the useful life of your asset. And both of those were deemed to have been reasonable. Financial statement disclosures. The financial statement disclosures are neutral, consistent, and clear. All of your notes and the note disclosures are set out as an example from the local government commission. So we have these, and then we pick and choose which ones are pertinent to the town of Belville. But they were all approved by the LGC. Significant audit adjustments or unreported differences. Communicate any significant reported and unreported differences. It says to be discussed at end. That's what we've had on each audit presentation. We do not have it, so there is nothing to discuss at the end. But if we have had some audit adjustments, we would have a chart that we would have gone over in the chart. That's all. So there will be none of those. Disagreements with management. Communicate any disagreements on financial or reporting matters. So if we wanted to show that, like what I spoke about earlier, that GASB 87 pieces in a certain way, if the town disagreed, we would just have to note here that we disagreed on the way something should have been shown in the financial statement, but there were none. Management representations. Management has to provide representations to us, and they did in a management letter that was signed November 14th, which is the day of the audit report. Consultations with other looking for. Like, for example, a lawyer, an actuarial person, any type of outside consultation involving audit. Were there any issues prior to our retention? The management discussed this with us prior to signing the contract, any issues? None this year. Difficulties encountered in performing the audit. Any serious difficulties the auditor encounters dealing with management, such as unreasonable delays, unreasonable timetables, or unavailability of client personnel? There were none. Irregularities in a legal act. Communicate the existence of any material irregularities and or illegal acts determined during the audit. There were none. Other findings or issues, none. So those are the required communications that the board has to identify each and every year. The next slide on page 6 is going to go over some of our key figures from the audit. So we have a summary of some of the key items. And you should have bound copies of the audit, so then I can answer any questions. I have 1, 2 here, so we can go over that. But these are total revenues and other financing sources. This slide is the general fund, $1,907,611. Total expenditures, $1,262,934. So a net change of increase in fund balance of $644,677. Our minimum designated fund balance is recommended by the local government commission, would be a percentage of your general fund expenditures. It used to be 8%, but now it's based on the size of the unit budget. So that's why it says 34% there. But up until this year, it was usually 8%. They wanted you to have a minimum of 8%. Our unassigned fund balance is $2,235,505, which as a percentage of our general fund expenditures is 178.76%. So we're well above the 34 or the old standard, which was 8%. The tax collection rate, I just heard the Rutherford County tax collector for Belville, the tax collection rate last year was 99.04%. So can't really get much better than that. Next slide on page 7 is just a summary of the revenues and expenditures in a bar graph. So there's our 1.9 million revenues, 1.2 million expenditures. And that equates out to our $644,677 increase. And you can see the last several years have been positive in terms of adding to fund balance the last 3 years. The next slide on page 8 just shows a pie graph of our revenues, the top 3 revenues with other taxes and licenses, which are local option sales taxes and unrestricted intergovernmental, making up the majority of our other revenues. Other taxes and licenses is 51% of our total revenue. On the next slide, the general fund expenditures, administration, which is 77%, that's $926,402. And then we have public works, parks and rec, and debt service, making up the majority of the rest of these expenditures. On page 10, this is an analysis of our fund balance, with the available portion in green, that's the $2,235,505, and our restricted amount in red. Restricted is restricted for streets. So we have $475,954, that's our PAL bill money that are restricted as to what we can spend them on. And then stabilization by state statute, which is for the town of Belville, just your accounts receivable. If you have your audit on page 11, under the general fund, you can see that the accounts receivable is $644,000, and stabilization by state statute is $644,000. Purpose of that is you cannot budget and spend money that is receivable, so you have to restrict that money out. And for the PAL bill, those monies are restricted because they're restricted as to their use. Any grant monies any other grant monies that we have would also be restricted. And then our total fund balance for the year came in at $3,356,900. balance available as a percentage of our general fund expenditures, which we talked about earlier. But you can see on this line graph, in 2019 it was 57%, now we're at 279%. So that's our total fund balance available as a percentage of how much money we're spending in our general fund expenditures. So almost 2 to 1 how much we have now, 179%. The next slide on page 12, 12, 13, 14 are just some of the other funds that we have. Here's our easy dock construction fund, which we had revenues of $253,931, and the corresponding same amount for expenditures. On the Riverwalk construction, all we have is a little bit of revenue. I didn't look, but I'm sure it's just interest earned income of $117. And that was our fund balance at the end also. On the ARPA fund, those monies are only shown as revenues as we spend them. So the rest of it, even though we receive quite a bit of money, we're only showing the amount as revenue as it is spent. So there's still $200,000 in that fund in cash, but it's only brought into revenue as expenditures for the ARPA fund. So last year we had $135,848 in expenditures, $135,150 in expenses for an increase of $698, and that was our ending fund balance. And on slide number page 15, analysis of cash. The ARPA fund, like I just mentioned, had $200,658. The Riverwalk construction fund has $1.2 million in cash. The Easy Dock construction fund has no dollars in cash. The general fund has restricted cash of $475,954. That's the Belville fund, and the rest of the cash is $2,264,450 unrestricted cash in the general fund. That's the summary of the key figures from the audit. There were no findings. Is there any questions about the audit?
No, Greg, we appreciate that. Appreciate you and your firm. And also, I thank y'all, thank the staff. Those kind of reports we hope we keep getting. And, because so many towns do have headaches when it comes to money.
Yes, sir.
We wish we had a lot more of it, but at the same time, we have to manage what we have exceptionally well. And I think that's happening. These kind of audits support that, and that's what we appreciate your firm for.
Yes, sir. Well, we appreciate the town staff. Very helpful this year. We got the audit out. It was dated November 14th. As long as we have it in for the LCQ by December 1st, it's not considered late. So it was on time, and then we will not be on any due date assistance list or anything like that.
Any comments from the commissioners? Thank you. Greg, thank you. Like I say, thank you and your team. We appreciate the work y'all done also. And, thanks for being with us tonight.
Yes, sir. We appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Staff, y'all have any comments?
No, sir, thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. Y'all have a great night.
Have a good night, sir.
You are currently the only person in it.
Like I say, these are type audits we like to see. I say we have so many towns that do get in trouble with their finances and not keeping on track. That goes to our staff. And we appreciate the hard work y'all have done because they can do the audits, but if we don't have the staff taking care of it, then it gets way out of whack, and then we're trying to answer things we don't want to answer. And it should show our town citizens that we care about their tax dollars and we pay attention to how we spend the money and make sure that we don't misuse any of those tax funds that come into us. I appreciate that. That's good. I feel good about that. Any comment from you, Madam Town Manager?
I just want to thank Mr. Goodson, Ms. Williams, and Ms. Hewlett, who's not here tonight. They all work really hard to make sure that our auditors have the information that they need.
And I'm here for part of that, watching it, and, I know the amount of stress that's put on them when they ask for certain things. And if they're not happy with this, it's got to be a whole another different way. And, all the staff, I can't do nothing but applaud y'all for the team effort and what happened with this audit. It's, great. Thank all of you. Okay, we'll move on to item 5D. Town manager thing we requested. Okay, you handle this. I won't read it.
Okay, so I think I might have skipped over an item there, but we can.
Oh, I got you. We're moving on. We do have a, board appointment that we have to do for the ABC board, coming up. If I can get this out of the way and get down to it, I think we have 2 applications or submissions, for the ABC board position. Ms. Alexander has reapplied, and we appreciate that. And Mr. George Everhart has applied. The commissioners have had a chance to look over the applications. Ms. Alexander, any comments you'd like to make?
Hi, good evening to you all. My name is Lee Alexander.
Yeah.
I'm a court manager for the 5th Judicial District in Hennepin counties. I was lucky enough to be appointed to the ABC board a few years back. I've enjoyed my time serving on the board. I think we've done a lot of good work together. We've basically been tasked to do certain things. Right now, I'm in charge of the personnel, so I handle the HR with the staff and the managers, as well as assist the town attorney with any legal issues. So I think we've done a really good job, especially in the past few years, having to deal with COVID and still bringing in lots of funds to be able to use. So I would just really appreciate it if you would consider appointing me again to serve the second term.
Okay, any comments from the board?
Thank you.
If there's not any, y'all don't care, I will put the nomination back up for Miss Alexander to be put back for a second term in her position. If the board is happy with that, the nominations on the floor, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it. Ms. Alexander, welcome back to the ABC Commission or Board.
Thank you.
If you come up forward and so I can swear you back in. Left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand, please. I say your name.
I, Gail Fender,
Do solemnly swear that I will support and maintain the Constitution and the laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office as a member of the Belville ABC Board, so help me God. Thank you and welcome back.
thank you very much.
We do have, so we recognize, we do have the chairman of the ABC commissioner here tonight, John David, if you,
You gotta fill the promotion.
sorry, excuse me, I'm moving you up. That's what happens, I told my privilege is not working as good as it usually does.
I'm district attorney.
But, Mr. Chairman, we appreciate the hard work you and your commissioner do, as well as your staff with ABC, board here. I think y'all do an outstanding job. It's tough over there too with all the decisions you have to make. And, y'all have strongly supported the town the revenue that comes in from that allows us to do a lot of things that we couldn't do without that revenue. And, on behalf of the town, thank all you staff people and the commission.
I think you just sent over a nice check for you.
Yeah, I know. Any comments from the commission?
Yeah. December was a very good month.
Thank you for continuing funding.
Yeah.
But it's, there's a lot goes into it. The more I learn about it, their system runs just like any other government system. And, it takes a lot, and I deal with the ABC commission a lot myself, so there's a lot to it, a lot goes on. Thank y'all again. Okay, moving on to, I think, where are we at? 6A, update on the Brunswick River Walk project. Who's gonna handle that, Madam Town Manager?
Do it together if you like.
I'll let you start.
Just wanted to thank the park staff for all of the renovations that they've been doing, and also we've had a lot of volunteers. Special thanks goes out to Brunswick Community College for sending some volunteers over to help us renovate the shelters. Also, as far as progress on Phase 2 Riverwalk extension, we had a second scoping meeting with Cameron this past week, I think it was last Friday. And so we're fine tuning now areas, mapping out the actual path of the Riverwalk and the trails based on the wetlands areas, and Adrian could go into a little bit more detail on that. And then we also have the mix of the widening project, which will tell us how much room we have from the roadside as far as the walking trail portion. So we are working on that as hard as we can. Anything else you want to add?
I think that pretty much covers it.
Adrian, we always love to hear from you.
Well, we can talk about the project. I'm always happy to talk about the Riverwalk.
I think we have there's a lot of good things, like you say, happening with our Riverwalk. And I think this year's gonna bring some, I got a couple trips with the Raleigh on possibly we'll be expanding our park system, and some new things will be coming up. Hopefully we can get the funding for it. I think our citizens and the people of this whole area are gonna thoroughly enjoy it. I want people to have a place to go where they can truly relax, enjoy yourself. And I think when they hear the project we're working on now, and they're involved part of Eagle Island, and we're gonna expand our walking trails and get out into the nature, be able to relax, sit down and enjoy the beauty we have here in our riverfront. And the more we add on to it, I hope the more people that we draw, but at the same time, we do realize infrastructure is always real important. And the more people we draw, you got to have places to park. And sometimes our parking lots really fills up quickly. But I think we can find a resolution of the issues with that, with additional property that we have from the DOT, expanding our park and where our walkway will take us. Hopefully we'll have some new areas also that we'll be able to have some additional parking and make it easier for our citizens and people outside of our town to come to it. And hopefully when my meetings in Raleigh, we'll be able to come back and have all that additional property that will be brought into our park system and expanded even more. So I'm looking forward to it. I think this is going to be one of the best years we've had in our park in quite a while. And the way things are heading right now, it really looks good. Any comments from anyone? Madam Town Manager, anything else to say on that?
No, I think we are really excited. We're going to start seeing some representatives out flagging the wetlands, and so it's going to be exciting to actually see it on the ground, where the actual trail is going to go.
And there'll be some more information coming out to us and everyone about the, actual construction and the date. Everything starts here shortly.
Thank you.
But I'm looking forward to it, and I think the public will thoroughly enjoy it once we get it complete and built. I'll be really happy about, cutting that ribbon as well. Okay, moving on to item 6B on the agenda, street repairs and drainage repairs update. Jeff, yeah, there's Jeff. Jeff, you want to touch some of this?
Sure, and there's several different subjects that we need to hit. I think going in order of the packet, the first one is the speed pumps on Kingsworth Lane. Provided a plan sheet for that shows where the speed humps, the 2 speed humps need to go along with the required signage. Pretty much is what it is. We met out there several months ago. The first speed hump was gonna go just south of North Old Town Line on Kingsworth, just before you hit the private gate that's in that area. And then as you travel north along Kingsworth, between Gray Fox Court and Squire Court is where the second speed hump is proposed to go. So that is the plan. I'm going to take any questions from there.
I want to voice that I'm still in opposition to speed bumps.
Speed humps.
It's minimum.
Speed bumps and humps.
Well, we had this whole issue 10 years ago, bumps and humps.
And from the emergency management side, I thoroughly understand that. Sometimes it's tough, and I think what the commissioners say, fire rescue, police and everything, when they go in these areas, they're in a hurry to get to where they're going, and these speed bumps do inhibit them. So what we're trying to do, just like with our other humps, we're trying to put them in that if you hit at certain speeds, it's not going to be a drastic reaction. It's not the type you're going to hit, it's going to tear your car up or that way, but they still going to slow emergency vehicles down some. The reason we're looking at this hardly is safety concern for our citizens, and the neighborhoods that we have are like neighborhoods in any other town. The speed limits, you try to regulate as much as you can. Our basic speed limit is 25 miles an hour in our communities. But in a lot of places, that's really even too fast. If you're walking the road or you're walking your dogs or your kids are out, you want traffic and people pay attention to it. And the bad part is that we have people that don't even abide by the 25 mile an hour zone, but I know for a fact, because I have some insight that the people that do speed in within our city limits, within these housing developments, and that is dangerous. And we wish people would pay attention, but people get in hurries. But when they get in a hurry, a lot of times nothing will happen until they harm someone or hit something, and then it's too late. So we have to put in preventive measures as we can without having a huge impact on our fire rescue and law enforcement. And I think we're putting into it. I think the humps that we decided to put in are basically in the same. Jeff, you hit me if I'm wrong. You remember the speed limit on those?
10 to 15 miles.
10 to 15 mile an hour. And I think that's basically what our other humps are too, aren't they?
They're technically made to be running 35 miles an hour.
Okay, is that what ours are that we have currently are in?
Right. Not that I wanted to take that speed up to 35 miles an hour.
Yeah. But I notice most people that go over them don't have really any issues with it.
And to that point, that was because the road was, the speed limit of that road was 35 miles an hour. Back in the day, I mean, just 25.
And I wish people in the communities would pay attention, because safety in our neighborhoods is really important. But we have a certain percentage, like anywhere, not going to abide by the rules or the laws, and that makes it dangerous.
Jeff, I have a question. Why the one right behind the gate? Okay, right there.
That was the area we talked about a good bit. I'm a little surprised by that as well. The reports are that there are some accidents.
Is there a stop sign at that intersection?
There is.
And are we concerned about people going through that gate?
That's the report is that people don't even stop at that stop sign.
One thing that we're trying to look at is, I think we discussed, Jeff, I don't know if we brought it up, that's making that intersection a four-way stop. Since those are municipal roads and not state roads, those signs have to be certified to put up before they can be enforced. If they're not certified stop signs, the town or law enforcement, either one can write a citation for them. That means you can blow right through them and ain't nothing really gonna happen to you. We can write a civil citation, and if we get the stop signs certified by the state, then a citation can be written if you go through it. So the things we have to look at, hopefully, we don't have to get to, enforcement action is the last thing that you want to do. Because you hope the citizens care about their fellow citizens that's in the community, and safety is a key issue. So, what time frame? I can't remember what time frame we looked at, Jeff, as far as putting these in.
I haven't said specifically as far as I know.
So, commissioners, if there's anything we can look at if we get back, if we reevaluate, think we don't need but one, we'll put one in instead of two. So, we want it in the best place where it's gonna do the most good. The people that live right there, they have to back out of the driveways onto that road coming out. I think the main concern is coming out of, Jackie's Creek. That's where the concern is. About them speeding through there and not stopping for the stop sign. That's the main reason I want the, speed hump there, to slow them down before they get to that intersection. So, any comments or anything on it?
Who decided to put,
Say again?
who decided to put those speed humps there?
We had some discussion about it. Ultimately, it was my final recommendation to put it there.
These two locations?
Right. I'm not opposed to adjusting them.
I'm just curious. I mean, I know we talked about it. I don't remember exactly saying specifically where.
If y'all want to go back over and take a look at it, we're putting on this, if you want to reevaluate or look at it, put it on the agenda for next month. If y'all want to do that, that's up to the board.
I mean, I have full confidence in Jeff. I just want to be able, if somebody asks me, and I can explain how I pick these places. That's all.
Yeah, well, you think we need, on your evaluation, you think one would do the purpose, or?
That was one of my thoughts originally, was maybe just as a trial to do one of the two. And which was
Where would you place the one at?
probably near that private gate. That was the area we talked about most.
I think that's where the main concern is when the gate opens up, they're
Mhm.
coming out there fairly fast and not stopping for stop sign.
Right. And it also allows the ability, there's several different versions of those speed humps. And the one we're using is at 10 to 15 miles an hour. That's kind of, is that the right one to choose?
Is this speed hump, is it asphalt or is it going to be some type of installed device?
It's an installed device, behind, I think it's the third page in this section, behind the pictures of Ray Fox Court there. The speed humps in the back sheet of that shows,
It's not visible as long as we got it.
it's I don't know what it's made of offhand. I think it's some sort of rubber or something like that.
You can go.
But they are removable, they're anchored down. That's, I think, also one of the benefits is they can easily be
I
removed.
think one of the things does happen about using this type, if it does present any major problem, it's easy to remove. Without a whole lot of issues. And, then we go ahead with it, or we've already basically, I don't, you remember if we actually voted to go ahead, or,
I don't think we took it on.
I don't think we did either. So do y'all want to, go ahead and look at this a little bit more and put it on next month's agenda, or vote on it tonight? Good. don't think there's a rush with it, but we can, the people there and the ones that are complaining about the traffic, of course, they have concerns, and I understand their concerns.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine, like I said, I just want justification so that I can, when people ask me, I can say, where's the reason why? Because I choose that.
Or y'all want to go with, let's, if we do vote on it tonight, you just want to go with the one coming out of the gate. And with the gate there, emergency vehicles are gonna have to slow down anyway, the gate's gonna be locked.
I mean, I can see the rationale for two, because that's a nice little run up to the intersection there at Eastwood Lane. Not like everybody doesn't fly through that neighborhood anyway. I mean, I don't have a problem with two, like I said, I just want to be able to explain why we picked that location.
Yeah, and just to add to that, that second location in between Gray Fox and Squire Court, shows that specific location. You can see the label on there that NCDOT maintenance, ends on the north end of that road. So it shows 200 feet south of that location, which is generally what they try to look at as a advanced warning of a speed hump. So it's roughly where we're gonna put the speed hump ahead sign to give the drivers some indication that they're coming up to the speed hump. And,
Yeah, and with y'all doing that, what I would like to go ahead and approve is to make that intersection a four-way stop.
Yeah, I'm good with that too. Not that people-
Like I said, we make sure that we designed or certified, so we can have some enforcement mechanism if we have to.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, I guess, any other comments? You all want to go with the one first? Since these are portable, it's not that big of an issue, put it back down.
I mean, I'm good with two. I mean, if that's what Jeff thinks it makes sense. And I guess it does make sense. Like I said, that's a nice run.
Well, we can put it on as a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve these speed humps and locations within designated for Jeff Armstrong.
See what happens. Okay, the motion on the floor that we accept the speed humps on Kingsworth, one coming out of Jackie Creek, and the four-way stop. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. One nay, the ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank y'all.
Just for clarification, I'm not opposed to the four-way stop sign, but I am opposed to speaking.
Yeah, please don't you understand.
We understand where you come from.
move on to Gray Fox Court and also Gregory Road are the other two street issues I want to talk to you about.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
In your packet, you'll also find some pictures of Gray Fox Court. Those are some repairs that were recently completed by Reggie Norris. And I visited that area last week and everything looked to be in good order. I did hear from the town, Jim Future, that Reggie is planning to come back to the site. He's gonna lift that patch he did at the intersection of Kingsworth and Gray Fox Court, settle a little bit. That was a sinking area due to a stormwater pipe. We're gonna let that area settle a little bit, so that asphalt sinks down a little bit and then add a bit more asphalt to keep it nice and flat. So I think after that, it'll be completely done.
Okay, we got any time frame on that, Jeff, or is it just gonna be watched for a little while?
Pretty much been a week, so I think it'll be another week. before
Another
we
week.
can,
Okay. Are the people there in the neighborhood, anybody talk with any of those that had the concerns originally?
We're very happy.
Okay.
And then the last item is Gregory Road, repaving that's been done there. That work is essentially complete. You can see the pictures Athena has pulled up on the screen. They got all the asphalt, a good bit of it, much thicker than I'm used to seeing for compared to regular roads, given the planning for truck traffic that will be on this road. They've got it striped. Everything's looking good. With the exception of the issue I brought up on a previous meeting regarding the drainage that heads towards State Employees Credit Union. And where we are at with that is looking into what DOT might have, trying to figure out if that stormwater can go from State Employees Credit Union to the US 17 ditch. These must have been taken after the recent rains we had this past weekend. That water at State Employees Credit Union is a low spot, so DOT didn't have any information that would help us indicate whether that's possible. In the previous plans we have from State Employees Credit Unions, their site plan from years ago, and the Wooten plans that was done for this project, I'm doubtful that will be able to happen. It seems like that State Employees Credit Union spot is lower than the ditches on US 17. You're standing out there, it doesn't look that way, but according to the plans, that's what's being indicated. So right now, at least some surveying needs to be done, which might need to be followed up with some engineering stormwater work. And it's just a little bit a question in my mind as to how that needs to proceed. Who's going to pay for that at this point? And then of course, additional engineering stormwater work is needed. It's any question as to whether Wooten should try and continue to work on that, given they already did the original design. I think at the very least, one of the next steps is to have some sort of conference call with Wooten and try to determine what their design showed. And the big question to me is the stormwater might need to be redirected. It might need to head towards the stormwater pond in Waterford. So I'm just getting a better indication of how the existing stormwater permitting works in that area. And talking to Wooten would be helpful, and going from there, figuring out what the next steps would be. So.
I think we need to, I've been out there, I think we've done exceptional work on the road itself. The water runoff system, from my perspective, DOT and the way they have it designed on 17 is not good at all. Because unlike you, the water really, when you think about it, I don't think it's gonna run back to 17. That ditch line that they have is, I don't know what you call it, it ain't designed very well. It's not designed for the water to run out and flow off.
The current work that they're doing there now in front of Mag Greens, is that ditch work or is that pipe installation? You know?
Sure, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, I think. But, I think we're always gonna have a certain amount of water issues up there on that 17 portion of it. And the water flow, and I don't think, if I'm not wrong, Jeff, you can get me wrong, I think the way the water flows to the backside down where the reverse osmosis plant is not fully completed yet. They got it fine up to where the gate is, but from there on where the water should be flowing, it's not flowing because it's not cleaned out yet.
Right.
Which it will be in the future.
Right.
I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to look for a timeline that, Gregory pulling the entities, all of them that's done this, we're trying to get a time frame when the town's gonna take the road into the town, which is a commitment we made, hopefully. And I don't see no issue with that. But I do agree with you, we probably should have a conference with them one more time about the stormwater runoff issue. See, they may already have something they're working on mentally or looking at, we need to find out. And then maybe we can get a final deadline of when we can go ahead and accept the road into the town. And we're gonna have to make a decision, how wide are we gonna take him? Well, I can assure you, they want us to take the asphalt and the shoulders. And they've spent a lot of money to get it into shape it's in. So I guess we'll see what we can do. I watched it when we had our last real heavy rain, just right there close to the bank. The water does not flow real well, but also at the same time, the ditch is not completely open and it's not completed on the far end, heading back toward the reverse osmosis plant, so we're still in a mess right now.
Yeah, to that point, there's a high point, on Gregory Road, near about where it intersects with Backhoe Road. And that, everything from there should be flowing towards State, towards credit union, and then everything beyond that, towards the osmosis plant.
But I think they've done a great job as far as the drainage, the tiles they put in, the road work they've done, and, the road was a lot thicker than I thought it was gonna be. They put down a lot of asphalt. And that's good for the town, because after we accept it, it's our responsibility.
So we got that heavy truck traffic going on. I think that's the concern we identified.
And I think Jeff will agree, they put down a lot more asphalt than I thought they were gonna put down.
They didn't skimp out on it.
So your concern basically is that it all ponds down by straight up place, right?
Right.
So moving forward, if it's okay with commissioners and Madam Town Manager, we just get a hold of the parties and let's see if we can get a conference together. And that way we go ahead and, we need to find out from them too, if we're gonna accept the road, get everything done, we need to put our heads together and also have a little ribbon cutting ceremony as well, accepting these road and property. We got, remember, we take the road, the property under that road comes into the town also. And with everything's getting ready to happen with the apartment complex on Pool Road, you got a third of Backhoe Road that's also paved now, so I think the rest of it, with the new apartment complex going in, you'll see Pool Road and the rest of Backhoe completely redone. And then that's gonna be a happy day for us. We don't mind taking the roads in once they get up to a position we can take care of them. And not have to pour a lot of the resources of the town into a defective road, which they are right now.
Driving it
So, but tonight, we don't have to make, there's no motions or anything we have to make. Just go ahead and direct, Madam Town Manager, if you will, let's see if we can get the parties together. Any other comments from the commissioner?
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, to seven, the regular agenda, the budget calendar. I'm not sure the commissioners have had an opportunity to look that over. And, any issues as far as the budget calendar, that y'all looking at, it's gonna create any headaches?
Proposed date for the budget workshop, I am not available on that.
Would you like us to select a new date and send out a Google poll for a new date?
That's nothing.
You're talking about March 18th.
Correct. Good the weekend before or after.
What date is that? Madam Town Manager, date.
11th and the 25th. I don't think, well, I wanted to ask Mr. Newbauer was here if he had a rough idea about when the reevaluations will be out, so we know what numbers we're working with that's going to impact our budget.
He mentioned that it'd be the middle of February before they might know something.
We'll know a little bit in advance. So,
So you'll have some to work with.
well, what date would, y'all think would be the best, the 11th or 25th? Staff, do you have
I'm good either day. We would either day.
either day.
We would lean towards the 11th, being that we had a meeting on the 27th.
I think I'm actually working on the 25th.
Y'all want you gonna have a problem going to 11th?
Fine with that. Do we want to check with Commissioner Long?
Yes.
Now we'll just tell you.
Okay, we'll go ahead and try to push for the 11th now.
Thank you, and would you like to start at 9 a.m.?
Huh?
Would you like to start at 9 a.m.?
Yes.
Will there be coffee?
Is everybody else fine with the other dates so far? If you are, could I have a motion that we accept the date, tentative dates?
About the calendar, so moved.
All in favor? All opposed, the ayes have it. And that'll be on condition that that 11th is okay with Commissioner Long.
Thank
And I think it probably will be. Okay, moving on to 7B, transportation update. Basically, there's not a lot changed on the transportation updates. You do realize that our road work, as far as our construction dates, if you look in our package, you'll see that the jobs that we have that are starting on our Molly Pass is going also. DOT has pushed back the start date on the actual widening of 133, and that work that it will happen. But town manager, what was pushed back
you.
to?
The let date was April, and the actual construction date was June 1st.
So they have pushed it back down. I keep trying to push them to pick that time back up some. But you know how DOT is. And part of the issue, they're trying to work along with the developers of the apartment complex, that their entry and exits from that condominium group and where it's stored into 133. DOT is trying to work more closely with them to make that a fluid operation where it all happens at one time. So hopefully, I hope that's the way it goes. Because the reason the way we're gonna do it, DOT was gonna do their work, and the apartment people would have to come back and do their work. And we don't wanna be stopping traffic or slowing it down 133 any more than we have to, and make it as fluid as possible. So I think we're at that point, and they're gonna try to work with each other, so they all finish at the same time. So that's a good thing. You can do it, push our date back a little bit. And, but I think after the headache, we put up a little bit of traffic problems when we start putting in our multi-pass. Everybody will be happy when they're completed, because then you'll have the choice. You can get on your bike or walk, or at least from now, be from Rice Oak all the way to ties into Lee. So you can actually walk down 133, you don't have to worry about getting run over. So that's a good thing. Any comments? Well, and from as far as any other projects we're going on, just remember the MPO meetings we're having, there's going to be more grants and things coming out for multi-pass and things we'll be looking at for the future. A lot of the issue now that I think some concerns that we need to work on, I hope everybody, that's prioritization of how funding in the state and how certain things are reprioritized, just like Cape Fear Memorial Bridge. That is still on our scope. It has been brought back up to the MPO board. We're looking at it, looking at avenues, how the resourcing funding will happen. There's still a lot of discussion over that. There'll be a lot of discussion in Raleigh too. But I think another discussion we're gonna have that I want to push is, why is it not on a higher priority than what it is? The higher the priority, the more chance we have of funding to go to it. And that's a process that's gonna have to be worked on here locally. out of New Hanover and Brunswick County. So, we'll keep working on that. It's something that's gonna have to happen. They realize with the amount of traffic flow that we have right now, as well as the increase in projected growth, that Cape Fear Memorial Bridge is not gonna be able to handle that volume of traffic. So something's gonna have to be done. And, I'm hoping the state realizes that also. And we're making sure it is getting right, so they're hearing. And I hope before too much longer, we're gonna put out something about what actually is gonna transpire and take place to replace Cape Fear Memorial Bridge. So thank y'all for that. And I got a meeting with them Wednesday, so maybe we'll get an update. Okay, moving on to item 8, which is a closed session under North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A3 to consult with attorney including litigation, and North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A4 to discuss matters related to the location or expansion of industries within our town. And thank everybody for being here. If you want to stay, any things or votes